Hello, everyone. Have you ever considered the terrifying possibility of something so large, so technologically advanced, simply ceasing to exist? Imagine a 1,000-foot vessel, a city on the waves, carrying hundreds of souls and secrets, just as gone. What do you think could cause such a complete disappearance? The USS Cyclops was not just a ship. She was a statement. Commissioned less than 5 years prior, she represented the pinnacle of naval engineering and strategic capability. Officially classified as a command and control ship, her true purpose ran far deeper, layered under official designations and compartmentalized briefings. At 1,050 feet long, with a displacement exceeding 110,000 tons, she was comparable in size to a supercarrier, though her silhouette was sleeker, devoid of the massive flight deck, replaced instead by vast arrays of antennas, satellite dishes, and sensor domes that bristled from her superstructure like metallic foliage. Her internal spaces housed state-of-the-art command centers, sophisticated data processing facilities, and extensive living quarters for a crew complement of nearly 1,800 personnel, including specialized teams of intelligence analysts, cryptologists, and communications experts. She was, in essence, a mobile, self-contained intelligence hub and command center, designed to operate autonomously in remote areas, coordinating complex fleet movements, monitoring adversary communications, and providing real-time strategic assessment to the highest levels of government. Her reactors, twin advanced pressurized water units, gave her virtually unlimited range and the capacity to generate immense power, necessary for her energy-hungry sensor suites and propulsion systems. Her security was multi-layered, her defenses formidable. A combination of advanced electronic countermeasures, rapid-fire defensive weapon systems, and the inherent stealth characteristics incorporated into her hull design. She was a fortress of information, a silent listener in the global electronic ether, and a nerve center capable of directing operations across half the world. Her current mission, designated Operation Cerberus, was a highly sensitive deployment to the remote reaches of the South Pacific. The specific area of operation was thousands of miles from any major landmass, situated over a vast, deep trench system known for its challenging hydrography and unpredictable weather patterns. The geopolitical context was tense. A rising regional power was increasing its naval presence and testing new long-range missile systems in the vicinity. The Cyclops' role was to provide an electronic watch, gathering critical intelligence on these developments, monitoring communications traffic, and standing by as an offshore command node should tensions escalate. For weeks, the mission proceeded without incident. The routine was rigorous but established. 12-hour watches, continuous monitoring, data analysis, secure communications bursts back to command centers thousands of miles away. Captain Eva Rostova, a seasoned officer known for her calm demeanor and sharp intellect, commanded the vessel. Under her leadership, the diverse crew functioned with precision, a well-oiled machine operating in the vast, isolating expanse of the ocean. Life aboard was a unique blend of high-tech intensity and the mundane realities of living at sea. Shared meals, limited recreation, the constant hum of machinery, the rhythmic roll of the ship underfoot, and the ever-present horizon. The last communication from Cyclops was a standard operational status report transmitted via secure satellite link at 0302 Zulu time on fictional date. The report indicated all systems were nominal, the ship was maintaining its assigned station, and intelligence gathering was proceeding as planned. There was no hint of distress, no indication of mechanical trouble, no mention of unusual environmental conditions or contacts. It was a routine check-in, one of many sent throughout the day. It was perfectly normal. Except it was the last. The next scheduled communication window passed unnoticed initially within the routine flood of global naval traffic. At 09:00 Zulu, the primary satellite receiver station responsible for monitoring Cyclops transmissions in Guam logged no incoming data burst. This was not immediately cause for alarm. Minor communication delays were not uncommon, sometimes due to satellite availability, atmospheric conditions, or even a momentary technical glitch aboard the ship requiring a re-queue of the transmission. Standard protocol dictated a 30-minute wait period before initiating a low-level query. The watch officer in Guam sent a brief, automated query via an alternate satellite path. No response. Another 30 minutes passed. A second, slightly more urgent query was sent, this time directly addressed to the ship's primary communications officer. Still no response. The watch officer, Petty Officer First Class Ramirez, felt a prickle of unease. He checked the logs again. The 03:00 transmission was the last confirmed contact. He escalated the issue up the chain of command to the watch supervisor. The supervisor reviewed the situation, noting the lack of any preceding communication issues, the clear weather reported in the last status update, though sea state could change rapidly, and the critical nature of the Cyclops mission. The decision was made to attempt contact via multiple redundant channels simultaneously, secondary satellite links, high-frequency radio bursts aimed at the ship's last known position, even a low-power emergency transponder check. All attempts were met with silence, not just a lack of response, but a complete absence of any signal emanating from the ship. No usual background electronic noise, no active sensor pings, nothing on the emergency frequencies. It was as if the ship's power had been instantly cut, or it was no longer there to transmit. The feeling in the Guam station shifted from mild concern to a tangible, growing dread. A ship the size of Cyclops didn't just go quiet. Not completely. The watch supervisor initiated the possible loss of contact procedure, a protocol practiced but rarely invoked for a vessel of this size and capability. The report ascended quickly, from Guam to the Fleet Command in Hawaii, then across the Pacific to the Pentagon's National Military Command Center, NMCC. In each step, the initial reaction was disbelief. Are you sure there's no interference? Could it be a deliberate radio silence drill? Has anyone checked all channels? The answers were always the same. Negative. All checks failed. Silence. The airwaves, where Cyclops should have been, were utterly, unnervingly empty. By 12:00 Zulu, 9 hours after the last status report, the status of the USS Cyclops was officially upgraded from loss of contact to missing, presumed lost. The speed of this escalation was unprecedented for a vessel of her class and size. It underscored the immediate realization that something catastrophic had occurred. A smaller vessel might suffer engine trouble or damage and drift, maintaining some form of minimal communication. A ship like Cyclops had multiple redundant systems, backup power, emergency transponders designed to activate even if submerged. For all of them to fail simultaneously without a single warning signal suggested an event of unimaginable speed and severity. The declaration of USS Cyclops as missing presumed lost triggered a massive multinational search and rescue operation. Though privately, senior commanders knew the chances of rescue were virtually nil. The focus immediately shifted to finding any trace, debris, lifeboats, a distress signal that might have been delayed. The designated search area was a circle centered on the Cyclops' last reported position, expanding rapidly based on potential drift, currents, and the vastness of the ocean. Air assets were the first responders. P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, with their sophisticated radar and sensor suites, were diverted from other missions, roaring across thousands of miles of ocean to reach the search zone. Surface vessels, both military and civilian, merchant ships were alerted to be on the lookout, were tasked to converge on the area. The sheer scale of the ocean became the primary adversary. The search zone encompassed millions of square miles within days. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack, except the haystack was as large as a continent, and the needle might have been atomized. The environment of the search area compounded the difficulty. The South Pacific, while often portrayed as tranquil, is subject to immense forces. Deep ocean currents are powerful and complex. The bathymetry, plunging to extreme depths in the nearby trench system, meant that anything sinking here would descend miles below the surface, facing pressures that would crush anything not specifically designed for the deep abyss. Weather, while reported clear at the last contact, could change rapidly. Satellite imagery was reviewed with intense scrutiny. Analysts pored over optical and synthetic aperture radar images, looking for anomalies on the surface. Oil slicks, debris fields, unusual wave patterns, anything that suggested a disturbance. High-resolution images taken around the time of the last communication showed nothing out of the ordinary in the immediate vicinity of the reported position. Just the vast, empty blue-gray expanse of the ocean. The initial aerial search, spanning hundreds of thousands of square miles, yielded nothing. No lifeboats, no rafts, no significant debris, not even an oil sheen large enough to be definitively linked to a vessel of Cyclops size. It was as if the ship had been lifted from the surface without leaving a ripple. This lack of initial surface trace was deeply unsettling. Even in the most catastrophic sinking events, some debris usually floats. Life vests, pieces of superstructure, furniture, oil, fuel. The complete absence suggested either an immediate and total disintegration or a removal from the surface by means so complete as to defy conventional understanding. Meanwhile, the investigation into the cause began simultaneously, based thousands of miles away in secure facilities. The formal investigation board was convened with unprecedented speed. Led by Admiral Thomas Harding, a stern, experienced officer with a background in naval operations and engineering, the board comprised experts from every relevant field: naval architecture, propulsion systems, ordnance, communications, intelligence, meteorology, and oceanography. Their primary directive was clear: determine what happened to the USS Cyclops and her crew. The first step was a meticulous review of every scrap of data related to the ship. This included maintenance logs dating back to her commissioning. Every repair, every system upgrade, every reported malfunction, no matter how minor, was scrutinized. Was there a history of structural issues? Any recurring problems with propulsion or power generation? Had there been any anomalies reported with the highly experimental sensor systems or command suites? Experts pored over blueprints, stress test data, and material specifications. The ship was built to withstand extreme conditions, exceeding standard naval requirements. No obvious Achilles heel was immediately apparent in her design or maintenance history. Next came the review of operational data transmitted from the ship. While the last status report was brief and normal, the ship continuously logged vast amounts of telemetry data on its internal systems: engine performance, power distribution, environmental controls, sensor activity, navigation data, hull stress monitoring, and thousands of other parameters. This data was periodically transmitted in encrypted bursts. The last full telemetry burst, received just minutes before the final status report, showed all key systems operating within normal parameters. There were no warning flags, no spikes in power consumption that weren't accounted for by sensor operations, No sudden changes in heading or speed that weren't part of the station-keeping routine. This presented a paradox. The ship's own data suggested everything was fine moments before it vanished. Could the data itself be misleading? Was there a system failure so instantaneous it didn't register? Or was the cause external? The communications logs were also examined. Beyond the routine status reports, there were secure voice and data transmissions with shore commands and other assets. Nothing in these communications suggested any apprehension, any sense of impending danger, or any reports of unusual activity in the area. The last known voice communication was Captain Rostova discussing a minor logistical matter with Fleet Command, ending with a standard sign-off. Her tone was described as calm and professional. There was no Mayday, no distress call. This fact alone was perhaps the most chilling. Modern naval vessels have multiple ways to send a distress signal, even if severely damaged or sinking. For none to be sent suggested whatever happened was either instantaneous and complete, or something prevented the crew from even reaching a distress beacon. Investigators explored the possibility of a deliberate act by the crew, mutiny, sabotage. But the psychological profiles of the key officers and crew, the rigorous security clearances, and the lack of any preceding indicators of dissent or instability within the crew complement made this scenario highly improbable, bordering on impossible, for all 1,800 personnel. The focus remained on external or internal catastrophic events. Simultaneously with the technical investigation, the intelligence community was brought to bear. The primary question was, could a rival power be responsible? The specific area of the Cyclops mission was strategically sensitive, and the rising regional power active in the area was known for its development of advanced, unconventional weapon systems and its growing assertiveness in international waters. Intelligence analysts reviewed all available information. Were there any known or suspected adversary submarines or surface vessels operating in the vicinity at the time? Submarine detection is difficult, but Cyclops was equipped with passive sonar systems capable of detecting even the quietest boats, and her mission involved monitoring acoustic signatures. No unusual contacts were logged in her final telemetry data. Satellite imagery of adversary naval bases and known operational areas was reviewed, looking for deployments or movements that coincided with the Cyclops' disappearance. Nothing definitively linked their assets to the specific location and time frame. What about unconventional weapons? Theories were explored. A highly advanced torpedo designed for deep water attack, a stealth mine deployed covertly, or perhaps even a non-kinetic attack, like a massive electromagnetic pulse, EMP weapon or directed energy weapon designed to instantly disable all electronic systems. An EMP burst large enough to instantly disable Cyclops would likely have been detectable by other assets or satellites, and no such event was registered globally. Directed energy weapons capable of instantaneously destroying a massive hull were considered theoretical or still in early development, certainly not weaponized and deployed without detection. Moreover, even a complete electronic blackout or hull breach from a conventional weapon might allow some form of physical debris or minimal signal. The total lack of trace remained the confounding factor. Investigators also revisited the natural event hypothesis with renewed intensity. Could an extreme rogue wave, perhaps amplified by the specific bathymetry of the trench system, have capsized or overwhelmed the ship? Naval architects calculated the Cyclops stability parameters. While a rogue wave could cause significant damage or even capsize a smaller vessel, the Cyclops was designed with immense stability and freeboard. A wave capable of instantly destroying or sinking her without any structural debris floating would have to be of truly unprecedented size and force, possibly combined with an angle of impact that compromised a critical structural point, leading to rapid flooding or breakup below the surface. What about an underwater seismic event? A sudden, localized earthquake or volcanic activity could potentially generate a powerful, localized tsunami or create massive underwater currents or turbulence. However, seismic monitoring stations globally and in the region registered no significant activity near the Cyclops' position around the time of her disappearance. The ocean floor in that specific spot was also not known for being volcanically active or prone to landslides on a scale that could swallow a vessel whole. The search for any physical trace continued relentlessly, now involving specialized deep-sea survey vessels equipped with side-scan sonar, multi-beam echo sounders, and towed arrays designed to map the ocean floor in exquisite detail. The deep-sea search was a monumental undertaking, pushing the limits of technology and endurance. The average depth in the primary search area was over 15,000 feet, dropping to more than 30,000 feet in the nearby trenches. Pressure at these depths is measured in tons per square inch, enough to crush most conventional submarines like a tin can. The search vessels, operating surface, deployed miles of cable carrying sophisticated sonar arrays and eventually remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs. These submersibles, built with robust titanium hulls and complex pressure equalization systems, could withstand the crushing pressures, but their operational speed was agonizingly slow. Mapping even a square mile of seabed at these depths could take days. The challenge wasn't just the depth, it was the sheer scale of the potential debris field. If the Cyclops had sunk rapidly and broken up under pressure, wreckage could be scattered over dozens or even hundreds of square miles of complex, often rugged seafloor terrain. Identifying potential debris required meticulous analysis of sonar data, sifting through millions of data points to distinguish between geological formations, natural debris, like rocks or thermal vent structures, and potential man-made objects. Every potential contact had to be investigated, often requiring deploying an ROV with cameras to visually inspect the target. This process was excruciatingly slow and painstaking. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The search grid expanded, covering areas where currents might have carried lighter debris. Some minor contacts were identified, metallic objects that initially raised hopes, only to be revealed upon closer inspection by ROVs to be discarded fishing gear, shipping containers lost from merchant vessels years ago, or natural rock formations with unusual acoustic properties. There were rumors of potential debris fields detected in highly classified areas, but these reports remained unconfirmed and were often dismissed as misinterpretations of data or deliberate misinformation. Meanwhile, the human toll mounted. The families of the 800 crew members faced an agonizing weight, clinging to dwindling hope. Family support centers were established, grief counseling provided, but the lack of answers, the complete absence of a grave site or even confirmed wreckage, made the grieving process almost impossible. The Navy liaison officers assigned to each family tried to provide updates, but their reports were always the same. The search continues. No significant findings. The silence from the ocean was mirrored by the silence surrounding the investigation's progress in the public sphere, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. Inside the investigation board's secure rooms, frustration mounted. Every plausible scenario seemed to be contradicted by the lack of evidence. If it was an internal explosion, why no distress signal, no debris? If it was an external attack, what kind of weapon could be so effective and leave no trace? If it was a natural event, what forces could be so immense and localized? The sheer mystery was unprecedented. As the active search phase transitioned into a long-term monitoring and salvage if possible effort, a distinction that offered little comfort or concrete action, the investigation board consolidated its findings and revisited the most plausible or least implausible theories. The official report, when eventually compiled, would likely be heavily redacted and state the cause of loss as undetermined or catastrophic event, nature unknown. But within the closed doors of the investigation, debate continued, focusing on the confluence of factors that might explain the impossible. One leading theory, gaining traction among a subset of the investigators with expertise in naval architecture and oceanography, involved a specific, rare environmental event interacting with an unquantified stressor on the ship. They posited that while Cyclops was built to high standards, no ship is indestructible. The constant pounding of the ocean over years, even on a state-of-the-art hull, could induce subtle fatigue, particularly in complex structures or areas subject to unique stresses from the vessel's advanced systems. While maintenance logs showed no reported structural issues, could there have been an internal flaw, perhaps microfractures or localized corrosion in a critical area of the lower hull or a main internal bulkhead that went undetected by standard inspections? Combine this hypothetical, unquantified structural vulnerability with an extreme, localized natural phenomenon. While a conventional rogue wave might not instantly destroy the ship, could a combination of a massive, steep wave interacting with a sudden, powerful downdraft of wind, known as a microburst or downburst, simultaneously strike the ship at a critical angle? Such an event could generate immense, localized pressure on a specific section of the hull, potentially exceeding the design limits, especially if that section already harbored a hidden flaw. The failure wouldn't be a slow leak. It would be instantaneous and catastrophic. A rapid implosion or tearing apart of the hull below the waterline, leading to immediate and uncontrolled flooding. The sheer volume and speed of water entering the vessel would overwhelm buoyancy, causing her to sink vertically and rapidly. The sudden pressure change during the rapid descent to extreme depth would cause implosion and fragmentation of the internal structure and potentially the hull itself, scattering debris over a wide area on the seafloor. The speed of this event, happening in seconds, would explain the lack of a distress call. The instantaneous loss of power and control systems, coupled with the immediate physical destruction of the ship, would prevent any signal from being sent. The extreme depth and the potential wide dispersal of relatively small, fragmented pieces of debris would make detection and identification on the vast, rugged seabed incredibly difficult, even with the most advanced sonar and ROVs. This theory, while still speculative and based on a chain of unproven assumptions, hidden flaw plus extreme localized weather/wave event, accounted for the key missing elements: the suddenness, the total loss of communication, and the lack of significant surface debris. It didn't require exotic weapons or fantastical events, grounding the explanation in the complex and often violent reality of the ocean itself, coupled with the inherent limitations of even the most advanced man-made structures. Another theory, still pursued quietly by the intelligence analysts, focused on a sophisticated, deniable act by the rival power. While traditional weapons were largely dismissed due to the lack of evidence, some theorized about a weapon system so new, so advanced, that its signature was either undetectable or successfully masked. Could a stealth mini-submarine have attached a highly advanced mine to the hull during a period when the Cyclops was maintaining station at low speed? A mine detonating directly against the hull, particularly if it targeted a critical compartment like the engine room or a magazine, could cause rapid flooding and sinking. However, the Cyclops' acoustic and electronic surveillance should have detected any approaching vessel, even a stealthy one, operating close enough to plant a mine. The lack of any such detection event in the logs remained a problem. Alternatively, some speculated about a non-conventional attack targeting the ship's power generation or distribution systems with focused energy, causing a massive internal electrical catastrophe that could trigger fires or explosions, leading to a rapid loss of control and sinking. Again, the The sheer scale of energy required and the means of delivery without detection remained highly improbable with known technology. The most unsettling aspect of the intelligence-based theories was the implication of a completely successful, undetected attack on a premier naval asset. This would represent a fundamental shift in the global balance of power and expose a terrifying vulnerability. However, lacking any physical evidence of an attack, no weapon fragments, no distinctive acoustic signatures registered by remote listening posts, no corroborating intelligence from other sources. This remained in the realm of speculation, albeit deeply concerning speculation. A third, less discussed but persistent theory involved a catastrophic internal failure unrelated to external factors or known maintenance issues. Could a confluence of minor, undetectable system anomalies have cascaded into a critical failure? Perhaps a runaway reactor condition, though her reactors had multiple fail-safes. A massive short circuit igniting an uncontrollable fire in a vital compartment, or a structural failure caused by an unforeseen harmonic resonance with the sea state. While the ship's design incorporated extensive safety measures and redundancy, the complexity of her systems also introduced potential failure points. A sudden, uncontrolled event like a high-pressure steam line rupture in a confined space, a magazine explosion triggered by an undetected fault, or a failure in a primary structural member under load could potentially lead to rapid and irrecoverable damage. Again, the lack of a distress call was the primary obstacle to these theories, suggesting an event that was both instantly destructive and disabling. Ultimately, the official report concluded that the USS Cyclops was lost at sea due to an unknown catastrophic event. The precise nature of the event could not be determined due to the complete lack of survivors, distress signals, or recoverable wreckage. The report detailed the extensive search efforts, the analysis of available data, and the exploration of various scenarios without definitively endorsing anyone. The most probable scenario, favored internally by some investigators but lacking conclusive proof, leaned towards an extreme environmental force interacting with an undetected vulnerability, leading to rapid sinking and fragmentation at depth. The possibility of a sophisticated, undetected attack by a foreign power could not be definitively ruled out, but was deemed less likely based on the absence of any corroborating intelligence or physical evidence. The report recommended a review of structural integrity monitoring protocols for large vessels, a re-evaluation of the redundancy of emergency signaling systems, and continued investment in deep-sea search and recovery technology. For the Navy, the loss was a profound shock. A loss of 1,800 skilled personnel, a multi-billion-dollar asset, and a significant blow to strategic capabilities. For the families, the lack of closure was a persistent wound. There was no wreckage to visit, no clear explanation for their loved one's fate, just the cold, vast silence of the Pacific. The official explanation, or lack thereof, did little to quell the questions. How could something so large, so modern, so vital, simply vanish? The mystery of the USS Cyclops became a modern maritime legend, a chilling reminder of the power of the ocean and the limits of human technology in the face of the unknown. The specific location where she was last known to be was quietly marked on classified charts as a restricted area, a silent memorial to a ship and her crew lost without a trace, leaving behind only questions and the enduring, unsettling mystery of what truly happened in those final, silent moments on the deep Pacific swell. The file on the USS Cyclops remained open, but the active investigation wound down, acknowledging the low probability of ever finding definitive answers without recovering substantial portions of the wreck from crushing depths.